It's actually a pleasure to be among all of you today. And
Thank you,
thank
sir.
you for the lavish introduction that you just gave me.
Thank you.
So one thing which I would like to set upfront before we start off the session, for I think almost 200 odd participants who are there in this session, I would request that it is important that we have a two-way session, because we are going to have communication, and communication can never be one way, right? So there will be questions which I'll keep on asking, and I would request as many of you to respond to it, because that is something which is actually going to help in terms of taking the session forward. All right. So if I start off, what are those things? So of course, you already gave my introduction. So basically about my entrepreneurial journey, after around 20 years of experience in corporate in various industries and various domains, I started off working as an entrepreneur. And then I started off something called 0522 Axiotech Private Limited. The brand was #Bazaar, where we were into grocery deliveries to local retailers. And we expanded our operations, started from Lucknow, and then moved on, expanded to Prayagraj and to Dehradun. So those were a few things. And then now is the time, because I could see, based on my interactions in the market, I could see there are many small businesses uh, who are actually looking for answers so that they can get their business growth. And that is where the idea of Entreprenext stepped in. Right now, I'm in the process of building this business of Entreprenext. The company is being formed and many other things. Of course, whatever we are going to talk about, the legal considerations and the practices which need to be followed, all of those are being carried out so that we can roll out the platform for all the upcoming startups as well as small. Now, the objectives in this almost 45-minute session that I would be taking, we'll be talking about what is entrepreneurship, the legal considerations that you need to look into in terms of forming the startup and then getting it off the ground. Next would be, what are those ethical practices which you need to look into to ensure that ethically you are on the right side and you are setting up things in such a manner that people are, or even for that matter, the customers and the investors, as well as your team members or employees, are actually glued in to what you're doing. Practical tips that I would be passing on to you. Then we can have a Q&A session. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So let us start about talking about entrepreneurship. So 210 people are there in the session right now. आप में से कितने लोग एक्चुअल में अपना बिजनेस शुरू करना चाहते हैं और you want to become entrepreneurs? So this is what is required. First, let us know what is entrepreneurship and why is it significant in today's the economy that we have. First and foremost, if I start off with entrepreneurship, I would say it is, in short, or in your generation's lingo, it will be a SMG. So start, manage, and grow a business. That is what is entrepreneurship, basically speaking. All right. Now, what is the difference then between a small business and an entrepreneurial venture or a startup? See, basically, एक differentiation factor होता है innovation, because small business is something that probably 10-15 other businesses are doing already, but startup has that unique feature of innovation attached to it, which means in case you are doing probably somewhat similar but doing it in a different manner, having a different business model, having a different go-to-market strategy, all of these things actually contribute to you becoming an entrepreneur from a small businessman. Not a businessman, I would say, now becoming gender neutral, business person. ओके, सो एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप को हम 3 वर्ड्स में अगर सिर्फ डिफाइन करें, स्टार्ट, मैनेज एंड ग्रो अ बिजनेस, एन आइडिया with innovation, creative thoughts, and something which actually is the need of the market. You have thousands of ideas every day, right? हर जने के पास ideas की भरमार है. But those ideas, is it something that the market needs? Is it something that people are looking forward to? Are there people who are actually wanting to pay for what you are providing them? That is one of the core for entrepreneurship. Ideas, as they say, come a dime a dozen. सुबह बैठते हैं, maybe चाय का कप लेके, and you are reading a newspaper. Even then you get 10 different ideas, but not all of them are feasible. What matters in becoming an entrepreneur is selecting that idea and then doing many other things which actually turn it into an idea which can be a growth making opportunity. And that is why I'm saying the 3 different aspects which go into, so you can start a business, but anybody can tell me how many years to a normal startup, what percentage of startups continue after 2 years? Actually, 60%, 60 to 65% startups shut down within the first 2 years. और reason इसका क्या होता है? There are, one, of course, the understanding. 2, how the operations are panning out actually. When you start off something and then when you start business operations, many things happen in the market. The original idea which you thought about, जब आपने वो सुबह चाय और अखबार पढ़ते हुए आपने सोचा था ना that business idea will work, उसमें बहुत से market के aspects आना शुरू होते हैं. And that is the time when you need to either refine your idea, you need to be agile in order to accept what the market is telling you to do. Or else, of course, the startup comes in the category of those 65% which cannot go beyond 2 years. So that is what entrepreneurship is all about. Why is the government so much after pushing the businesses or the startups? There are many reasons to it, but one major reason, everybody says, I think there are 210 participants right now. Out of these 210, at least I would say with the responses I got, 200 of you are looking for jobs and not looking as entrepreneurship as a career option. Why? Doing a job is easy. Everything is set. I'll go there. I'll be told you have to do A, B, C, D, and then you will start doing it. Why? Because that is your core area. But friends, remember, jobs हमेशा limited रहेंगे. Business opportunity is something which you need to look into. People say government jobs नहीं दे रही है. Government का काम नहीं है यार job देना. We need to look for ourselves. How can we become job creators rather than doing a job only? Okay, and probably this is one of the flaw which we had in our education system as well, which is now getting changed once the NEP comes in. क्योंकि हमारा जो माइंड है वो आज भी लॉर्ड मकाउले ने 1830s में जो एजुकेशन सिस्टम बनाया था अंग्रेजों के टाइम, because they wanted clerks, the same is still being followed. Probably now things are changing. कुछ चीजें बदल गई, but otherwise everything is the same. But now we need people who actually can think on their feet, who can take decisions, and that is what is important for a businessman, or more importantly for an entrepreneur. Sorry. And जब मैं अभी इसकी बात कर रहा हूं, we are actually talking about those qualities and the mindset that you need to carry as an entrepreneur or a businessman. Stop looking for easy way out. Remember, ये कहा जाता जरूर है कि मैं बहुत से ऐसे फाउंडर्स से मिला हूं, even during pitch sessions and all, जहां पे वो कहते हैं I wanted to become the master of my own destiny. मैं चाहता था मैं अपने डिसीजंस खुद लूं. Frankly, ऐसा कहीं नहीं होता. When you are in a job, you have bosses. When you are in a business, there are customers, and also there are investors. In case you are a startup founder, or else you are bootstrapped. Even then, your customers decide how you move forward in that direction. So there will always, क्योंकि ये पूरी एक cycle है. How things are moving from A to B to C. इसको आपको देखना पड़ेगा. So have that mindset. Have the mindset where you are ready to provide the opportunities to others, become entrepreneurs in your company. Now let's talk about ऐसा क्या होता है, what are those qualities और ये mindset की जरूरत होती क्यों है, what can be the reason for it. Now simple, ऐसा इसलिए होता है क्योंकि अगर ये mindset नहीं रखेंगे हम, we need to be open in our thoughts, agile in our mindset. Agile का मतलब कभी भी कोई इनपुट आ रहा है, स्टार्ट एक्सेप्टिंग दैट इनपुट, स्टार्ट रीवर्किंग. बहुत सी चीजें हैं जो आपको स्टार्टअप शुरू करने से पहले बनानी होती हैं, लेकिन उस समय वो एक अलग स्टैंड पॉइंट से आप बनाते हैं, वो बन जाती हैं. जैसे आपके फाइनेंशियल प्रोजेक्शंस, जैसे आपका बिजनेस प्लान, सो मेनी अदर थिंग्स यू क्रिएट. वंस यू हैव ऑलरेडी क्रिएटेड दैट, वहां से जब आप 3 महीने 6 महीने बाद उस प्लान को देखते हो, तो आप देखेंगे कि अरे, there are many changes which are happening, or at least need to happen. And for that, you need to have an open mindset, an agile mindset, so that you can change your business model accordingly. You can look into making the refinement in terms of operations कैसे काम कर रहे हैं, and how should they be running. ये सारी चीजें आपको ध्यान रखना जरूरी है. अब I'll give you a small example. From my previous organization जो मैंने करी थी, which was #Bazaar, you know, it started off with something totally different. Me and my friend, who we were the two founders of #Bazaar, even before starting, even before the company was formed, we were working on a model which was to connect people who want to start working from their homes and provide them training and details about the small machineries through which things can be produced. Once that started, we were actually just working on the model, looking at what are the things required, and we discussed it with one of the investors actually. Now he's an investor director with us. When we discussed it, he had a point. Machines तो आपने दे दी, लेकिन मशीन से जो सामान बन रहा है वो बिकेगा कहाँ? Of course, sales will happen at the retail stores only. Or of course, अगर बड़ी manufacturing unit है, then we can look at some wholesalers. But for that, the requirement is of a market. Now, in order to have that market ready with us, that was where we actually transformed that Udyogi format to a #Bazaar, or a format where things will start off and we'll start selling products. Things started from there. शुरू में कुछ कस्टमर्स आए, कुछ कस्टमर्स चले भी गए. What is happening यार, हो क्या रहा है? But हमारा जो मेन एम था, that was to sell more products. And then the concept of #Bazaar was born. And I'm talking about a journey of almost a year after we started. From where we started to how we transformed it. And then there was a time last year, we actually completed a little over 6.5 crores of business. And why did that happen? Because whatever the market was telling us, we were trying and accepting and then moving. So that openness of your mind is your responsibility, right? Be open, ask questions, and always take feedback from your customers. They are the ones who are going to help you. Now let's come to the two major pointers which we are actually to talk about. First one is the legal aspect. बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, and I'm sure we have experts also who look into the IPR aspects. बट अगर मैं इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स के बारे में बात करूं, 3 चीजें हैं जिसपे थोड़ा ध्यान रखना जरूरी है: द पेटेंट्स, द ट्रेडमार्क्स एंड कॉपीराइट्स। आपने एक बिजनेस शुरू किया है, आपको कब किस चीज की जरूरत पड़ेगी, you need to understand that, and in order to do that you need to know what do we mean by copyright, patent and trademark. Copyright basically is original work of any authorship that you've done, जैसे कोई books हैं, articles, some photographs, songs, anything you're doing, वो copyright हो सकता है. Patents usually IT companies, क्योंकि IT startups I'm sure you have seen, हर वर्ड के आगे टेक लग रहा है आजकल, खास तौर पे जब हम स्टार्टअप्स की बात करें, मेड टेक, एड टेक, हेल्थ टेक, हर में टेक आ रहा है, and that is the reason that patents are required. So patents are given for inventions, जैसे processes, machines, manufacturers, compositions, कुछ ऐसी चीज जिसमें कुछ ऐसी इंप्रूवमेंट आपने करी है which nobody has thought about or done earlier. That is where a patent is given. And trademark बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है even when you are starting off your business, because that covers any word, phrase, symbol, या कोई डिजाइन जो आपके बिजनेस को actually it sets apart from all the others. So अब जैसे राइट जो ग्रांट किए जाते हैं, तो कॉपीराइट में द राइट इज टू कंट्रोल द रिप्रोडक्शन, मेकिंग ऑफ डेरिवेटिव, उससे रिलेटेड कुछ डिराइव करके उससे आपने कुछ बना लिया, पब्लिक परफॉर्मेंस आप नहीं कर सकते. आई एम श्योर मूवीज तो आप सब देखते होंगे, राइट? व्हेन यू वॉच मूवीज, उसमें वो होता है ना, दिस इज ऑल कॉपीराइट मटेरियल, और इसमें अगर आप करेंगे तो इतने साल की जेल और व्हाटएवर, ये सारा क्योंकि कॉपीराइट के थ्रू प्रोटेक्टेड होता है. In patent, it is the right so that people are protected. Sorry, people are protected कि उनका जो आइडिया है, जो उन्होंने एक ऐसा पेटेंट करा रखा है अपने नाम पे, उसको कोई दूसरा जना ना यूज कर सके, right? So they cannot, others cannot make it, they cannot sell it, या import करके वो पेटेंट करा लें. All of that is restricted. So that helps you retain your IPR over whatever you are doing. खास तौर पे आपके जो इन्वेंशंस है. राइट टू यूज द मार्क होता है फॉर द ट्रेडमार्क. तो आपने कई कंपनीज, बिजनेसेस, उनके लोगों के ऊपर देखा होगा एक गोले में TM लिखा रहता है, और कई में आपने देखा होगा where the name or the logo has a R written in a circle on top of that logo. What is the difference between this TM and R? So when you apply for a trademark, like when we had applied for #Bazaar trademark, then we used to write TM within that circle. But once the government of India passes that, yes, this is, you are now legally authorized to use it and it is registered. Because of that registration, the TM becomes R, that this is a trademark of 0522 Exotech or #Bazaar. That is just an example. So that is those are one of the few important aspects of the IPR. Okay, company banani hai. There are various types of companies which can be formed. What type of a company should you start off? One, of course, most of you will be knowing, is a proprietorship firm. Then there is a one-person company, or what we know as OPC. Then there is something called LLP, or Limited Liability Partnership. One can be a partnership firm. Of course, then there is an NGO, which is called a Section 8 company, not for profit organization. But the most preferred one, खास तौर पे, because we are talking about startups, or startups में, whenever you want to get investors, there is a part of equity which you need to give. और उसके लिए what becomes important is you start your organization, your startup as a private limited company. अब private limited company अगर बनाते हैं, one, of course, it helps in terms of the trust that you build among the suppliers and everyone. Okay, private limited company है, बढ़िया, मतलब सारा कुछ registered है and everything is documented with the government of India. Second, you get the benefit of whenever you are giving out a part or maybe raising funds for your company, there is a portion which will actually go out from the equity, but you will get funds for that. These are a few of the benefits. Private limited company hoti kaun si hai? Any company which is less than 200 members, minimum 2 members are required so that a private limited company can be formed, which is actually the directors. These members, of course, they can transfer their shares, but they cannot transfer their shares. And usually it is beneficial to register as private entity. Minimum 2 डायरेक्टर होना जरूरी है, maximum 15 डायरेक्टर्स हो सकते हैं प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी. And then of course जब आपका स्टार्टअप ग्रो करेगा and once it reaches the IPO level, it becomes a public limited company. Then it's a different issue altogether. Then it means that general public can hold the company shares. Shares उसमें भी होंगे, वो जो शेयर मार्केट पे BSE, NSE आप लोगों ने देखा होगा, NASDAQ and all. There is no maximum shareholding limit in this because it's a public limited company. But yes, minimum 7 members are required to establish a public company. All right. Minimum 3 directors होने चाहिए और of course maximum 15 director हो सकते हैं in a public limited company as well. So this is about setting your company up. ये legal considerations हैं which you need to look at whenever you are thinking about starting off your own company. I have seen some people who say, no, we want to start it as a partnership firm or an LLP and we want to raise funds. Then it will become a challenge. Usually, initially you get angel investors and then comes in the venture capitalists. Like in #Bazaar itself, we had some initial angel investors who had invested some money, and then there was a venture capitalist as well who raised around 1 crore for us. So that is the thing what is required. 1 crore से 6.5 crore बनाना, that is the game plan. Because startup के लिए वो तेजी बहुत जरूरी है. If you are just running the regular way, the normal traditional way of हाँ ठीक है 3 generation बाद ये business बड़ा होगा, you're not on a startup path. You are more on a startup or traditional business. Company आपने बना ली. Now you're starting off your own business. What is the next thing to consider? जो contracts and agreements होते हैं, from the legal aspect I'm telling you. See, बहुत important है कि आपके जितने भी clients हैं, जिनके भी साथ आप काम कर रहे हैं, whatever type of business you're in. Like I gave you example of a couple of businesses I have been a part of. One was into the grocery aspect, and the next one which is coming up is more into clients who will be small businesses and startups, and even aspiring entrepreneurs जो entrepreneurship शुरू करना चाहते हैं, उनके लिए भी Entreprenext platforms is gonna offer something which is going to be something different at a different level altogether. In sub में, one important aspect that needs to be considered is that there need to be client agreements in place. What is to be done? By when is it to be done? Which terminologies I'm sure you would have heard somewhere or will be knowing. Like SLAs are defined. SLA means service level agreement. Even just giving an example, not from a business perspective, but even from your daily life. आपके पास आपका मोबाइल था, उसको कहीं गिर गया, उसका सिम नहीं मिल रहा है, आप सिम चाहिए आपको नया, आप जाते हैं maybe to any telecom company store. What you do is you fill in some details, give some form filling and all is done, photo and all is taken. But then there is a SLA defined, service level agreement. Sir, next 24 hours or 48 hours, you will get the new SIM. Or you are getting the SIM, but it will get activated within the next 24 hours or 48 hours. ये 24 या 48 hours जो है, this is the SLA for them, service level agreement. So similarly, when we started off on #Bazaar and now working on Entreprenext, we are actually looking at creating the SOP. SOP का मतलब जानते हैं? SOP means standard operating procedure. Standard operating procedure is something if you already have laid it down. Onboarding होनी है तो उसका क्या process है? What, when will the interview be conducted? What are the results? Who all will get the results? By how much time do they need to revert? How is the communication going to flow from the company to the participant? Then next comes in, उस बंदे का हो गया. Next comes in maybe एक operations का process लेते हैं. Sale. First, need analysis. What does the person require? उसकी need analysis हो गई. Then match the right coach, business coach with that business, जो business client है. Once that is done, then subsequently have the person's requirement and the coaches have a one-on-one discussion, maybe in over a Gmeet call. All of these things are steps which need to be laid down, because then what happens once you start off your own business, your SOP will control everything. Usually, what happens in businesses, as I'm sure most of you would have heard, लाला का धंधा चल रहा है ना. वो जो लाला वाला बिजनेस होता है वो इसीलिए होता है कि जो लाला जी ने कह दिया वही चलना है. But that is not how a professional organization functions. You need to look into having the SOPs, the SLAs, the client agreements, जो आपके suppliers हैं, vendors हैं, उनके agreements. You need to have all of them in place first. Only then should you start off, take the first step of starting off sales. Until and unless you have these things in place, even before you form the company, try and form these connections with the people. Have the agreements ready so that the day your company is formed, get the agreement signed and then continue with it. Legally, you will be safe because you will have everything documented on that sheet of paper. What is to be done? How is it to be done? Right? One more document which you need to consider are the employee letters or the employee contracts. Initially, in startups, it is good to take interns. Interns help in terms, of course, in terms of one, they are the ones who want to get practical working experience. Two, when you are looking at interns, it helps your business also in terms of how you are making that person learn and still getting whatever you are doing instead of hiring a permanent employee for that. A permanent employee, if you hire a permanent employee, of course, you're going to pay at least 5 times more than you are paying to the intern. ये cost consideration देना बहुत important है. Money, जितना आप cost cutting करके चलोगे शुरू में, आगे उतना ही ज़्यादा आपको profit होगा. And remember, startups do not start making profit from day one. Startups take time. Then any business for that matter, it will take a little time. But yes, you need to start looking into what are the avenues through which you can generate revenue from the customers, even from your suppliers at times, how much you can save. All of these things you need to consider. Regulatory में अगर legal के ही under में regulatory की बात करूं, some things which you need to look into are the permits, then the licenses that you need to take, or even the tax जो obligations होती हैं वो आपको पूरी करनी जरूरी होती हैं. GST register. I'll just give you some examples. Hashtag Bazaar, when I had started, there was a requirement because we were supplying products which people used to eat, and therefore we had to register or get a permit from FSSAI, Food Safety and Security का जो Government of India का norm है, वहां पे हमें उनका permit लेना जरूरी था. Similarly, I'm sure you would have heard of a few other names, जैसे ट्रेड लाइसेंस होता है, FSSAI मैंने आपको बता ही दिया. Then you need to do your registration. टैक्स के उसमें अगर मैं कहूँ तो GST रजिस्ट्रेशन होना जरूरी है. बिजनेस का रजिस्ट्रेशन होना जरूरी होता है आपका. अब खास तौर पे if you are forming a company, then there is a certificate of commencement of business. There is an AOA, MOA, article of association, और मेमोरेंडम ऑफ एसोसिएशन, ये सारे डॉक्यूमेंट, और इसीलिए प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी को बनाना चाहिए ताकि आपका वो जो ट्रस्ट फैक्टर है, बिकॉज ऑफ ऑल दीज थिंग्स बीइंग इन प्लेस, आपका कस्टमर्स और क्लाइंट सप्लायर सबका आपके ऊपर ट्रस्ट पड़ जाता है। एंड रिमेंबर, अगर लोग ट्रस्ट करेंगे आपके बिजनेस को, then your business is going to grow. Now we come to the second part, from legal to ethics. Now what are ethics? Ethics हम सबको पता है होते क्या है। Ethical का मतलब क्या होता है? चलिए, if I may ask, what do we mean by ethics? Ethics means क्या सही है, क्या गलत है, what is right, what is wrong,
What is morally good or what is bad?
sorry,
What is morally good or what is bad?
what is good or bad? Okay, good or bad कह लीजिए, right wrong कह लीजिए। yes ओंकार, thank you। तो बेसिकली एक स्टार्टअप के लिए बहुत ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट होता है एथिकल होना और बने रहना। एंड व्हाई एम आई सेइंग दिस टू थिंग्स? देयर आर रीजंस बिहाइंड दैट। आई हैव सीन पीपल who have actually started off a business on the premise, यार इसको ऐसा ऐसा करके इतना हवा में दिखा देते हैं and then this will happen, but actually that is not something which works out in the long run. आपने प्रोजेक्शन तो बना दिया, बट उसके बेसिस पे आपको फंडिंग मिलनी थी। फंडिंग मिलेगी कि नहीं वो डिपेंड करेगा द टाइप ऑफ इन्वेस्टर दैट यू आर डीलिंग विद। ऑल्दो उसमें भी कई लोग गेम खेलते हैं। देयर वाज अ केस इवन इन सिलिकॉन वैली वेयर one of the founders actually fooled most of the people and took funds from all of them, showing that we have developed something like this. And you know, after some time everybody realized paise to chale gaye, they are billionaires, but that product is nowhere to be found and doesn't deliver on what they had promised they will. ये ethics का एक बहुत बड़ा factor होता है। I have gone through many pitches. Many founders come to me looking for mentorship, coaching, and then they say, मेरे को 1.5 करोड़ का फंड चाहिए। 1.5 करोड़ के फंड में 1 लाख की सैलरी मैं लूंगा, 1 लाख की मेरा ये पार्टनर लेगा। कई होते हैं जो 3-3, 4-4 लाख रुपए की सैलरी रखते हैं अपनी एक महीने की। This is unethical. This is, if you're not taking money from yourself, you're taking from your business. It is investors' money. You cannot play around with that money. If it is your business, treat the money in that business as your money itself. That is an unethical practice. This is just for an example I'm telling you. बहुत से डायलेमास रहते हैं यार, क्या ये सही कर रहे हैं, क्या ये एथिकल है, क्या हम थोड़े से फिगर्स ऊपर बढ़ा के दिखा दें? But today everything is available on the net. Anybody who wants to check something. So there is one of the founders who has left the organization, but on the LinkedIn profile it still says he or she is the founder. Is that right? Is it ethical? If the person supposedly has left last month or last month, 2 months back, is it ethical for the person to say that, or the profile on LinkedIn to say that I am the founder of that company? No, it is unethical. The person needs to update it. Even when you are in a job, आप जैसे ही job switch करते हो, I'm sure LinkedIn वगैरह पे there are many people who update it immediately or at least within a week of joining the next company. That happy to share, I have joined XYZ company in this role, and then they update it. Now that is required. Again, one of the ethical problems which comes in. This is for startups, not only for startups, but think about even marketing. You see so many ads, and now of course the government and all also have gotten tough as to आपने ये कैसे दिखा दिया मार्केटिंग में अपने एड में। अगर कोई चीज, कोई प्रोडक्ट आपका कुछ चीज डिलीवर नहीं कर सकता, should that be marketed? Because people usually वो कहते हैं ना, जो दिखता है वो बिकता है. दैट इज द फॉर्मूला फॉर मर्चेंडाइजिंग. तो आपने दिखा तो दिया मेरे प्रोडक्ट से आपको ये फायदा होगा, बट एक्चुअली क्या फायदा होगा वो वाला? You need to be 100% sure before you actually are doing it, right? Ethics के मामले में I'll take up another example. Management of employees. टीम मेंबर्स को एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है, एक जो स्टैंडर्ड बिजनेस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन होती है ना, उसमें एक सीनियर वीपी होगा, फिर एक वीपी होगा, फिर एक जीएम होगा, डीजीएम होगा, एजीएम होगा, चीफ मैनेजर होगा, सीनियर मैनेजर होगा, सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ. इतने लेवल्स होते हैं. It becomes a little challenging also at times. But as a startup, you should make your organization hierarchy to the minimum. So there is a maybe a CEO or a COO or a CMO, CTO, जो भी कह लीजिए आप, Chief Technical Officer, Chief Executive Officer, वो एक लेवल हो गया. Then your management team, जो आपके managers हैं, and then your execution ground level team. 3 levels बहुत है, इससे ज्यादा की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी आपको initially. Once your organization grows to a scale, then have levels in it. And one thing which I learned, actually experienced for 8+ years in one of the organizations that I was a part of. I'm sure many of you would have heard the name Uninor or Telenor. Of course, now it is merged with Airtel. But one very good thing which I observed there, and I am still practicing in all my companies, is transparency. That is one basic thing about ethical conduct. वो साहब ने कमरे में बुलाया है, अब कमरे में जाके वो क्या कह रहे हैं, क्या खुजुर फुजुर कर रहे हैं, that actually adds inquisitiveness to the people who are not in that room. Do you know, in Uninor or Telenor, which became Telenor actually later on, there were no rooms even for the senior VP. Everybody, there was 4 tables, 4 chairs, and similarly set of 4 tables and 4 chairs kept. I could walk up to the circle head right away. Rajiv, this is the problem. Neelesh, why don't you look into this? Do it in this manner. But I said, I tried this already, whatever discussions you are having. That type of a transparency helps, because then people are aware of what is happening and where the company is heading, so that they can also make decisions. Remember, that is an ethical practice for a startup to follow. Of course, there is something right now, we all hear the hue and cry about the global warming and all. So there are some environmental things which need to be looked into. Again, as ethics, it is our responsibility. If we say we are doing this, we should be doing it. Transparency, आपकी जब होगी organization में, of course, it will build trust as well. So for startup planning, I will just suggest 3 basic things. If you are actually wanting to start off your own business, the ones who had raised their hand, write it down. First, budgeting and financial planning आपको करना जरूरी है. Even before you think about starting the company or sending the documents for forming the company, be sure that a realistic budget and the financial projections, they are in place. I have seen so many presentations from students. They all focus on the product or the business model, but nobody talks about finances. Friends, the investors are there because they are investing their funds only. If you do not have a financial projection in place, nobody is going to give their money to them, because they want to see, if I put in 10 rupees today, in how much time will it become 100? You need to show it to them in your presentation. Second, market research. Do not think, most of the times I've seen founders think, mera idea, ab to duniya jeet lunga. It does not work that manner. Do thorough market research, conduct surveys, try and find government organizations who provide reports on these. Even private organizations, there are so many private organizations which are doing so much of research. And I'm sure in the time to come, Entreprenext portal is actually going to provide all of these at one place to you. So market research is important because it will help you identify your target customers. It helps you in terms of assessing the competitors who are there in your market. People say, no, no, we are one of our types. There is no competition. In today's world, there is nothing which cannot be said is your competition. Maybe it might not be a direct competition. It can even be an indirect competition. But the competition is going to be there. Then when you do this market research, the market data that you get, that is something which helps you validate your business idea. Yeah, this is what I had thought. And the market is saying this, which means that there is a requirement of this. Right? I think one more point around this, majorly around the networking and mentorship. आप स्टार्टअप शुरू क्यों करना चाहते हैं? This is one of the questions to which the most common answer I've always heard, फंडिंग के लिए. फंडिंग मिलेगी उससे काम होगा. That is not how business works. Remember, mentorship is one very important aspect. Because if you have the right mentor, you will be focusing on your product. You will be building something which the customers like. If what the customers like, customers will purchase it. If they are purchasing it, you will be profitable. If you are profitable and you want to scale, then the investors will come to you directly. Will they not come to you? यार धंधा बढ़ रहा है, इसमें अगर अभी नहीं डाला तो there is a term called FOMO. FOMO is FOMO, fear of missing out. So उन्हें भी ये डर है, आज इसमें 10 रुपए डालूंगा तो कल मेरे को 100 रुपए मिलेंगे. आज 10 नहीं डाले और कल 100 का हो गया तो 100 डालने पड़ेंगे, तब फिर शायद 500 बन पाए. That is the fear of missing out. But उसके लिए you need to have the business in order to ensure that everything that you are doing is both legal and ethical and building value for you and for your investor as well. So I think those are the basic inputs around the legal and the ethical steps which you need to keep in mind. There are multiple other things which we can talk about. However, of course, keeping the time constraint in mind, I would just like to suggest the names of a few books which you should read. Remember, as the CEO, as the founder, you need to read, because reading helps you develop one skill which will actually help you grow anywhere and everywhere you go. Even if you are in a job, read as much as you can. So first book I am going to suggest, write down the name. It is called The Lean Startup. The Lean Startup was written by Eric Rice. E-R-I-C, Eric, R-I-E-S, Rice. It's a very good, a wonderful book if you want to start off your own business. Second book I would suggest now, because we have the legal as one of the topic headers, Legal Guide for Starting and Running a Small Business. इसके author हैं Fred S. Steingold. Third, I will say Ethical Chick, the inside story of the companies we think we love. और इसके राइटर हैं फ्रैन हॉथॉर्न. ये 3 बुक्स मैं आपको सजेस्ट कर रहा हूं. एक किताब थोड़ा टाइम के लिए वेट करें, शायद नेक्स्ट ईयर तक आ जाएगी. अगेन, being written by me and Mr. Kapoor Seth from Microsoft. The book will be titled How Not to Start a Startup. Everybody is telling you how to start a startup. We'll tell you how not to start a startup. The mistakes that people make. Right? एक दो अगर मैं आपको एग्जांपल्स दूं अराउंड द वेबसाइट्स, तो ये आप लिख सकते हैं. डोमेन्स आई कैन शेयर इट इन द चैट इफ यू वांट. आई डोंट थिंक आई कैन. ओके, फाइन, नॉट एन इशू. आप नाम लिख लीजिए, आप इन वेबसाइट्स पे जाके देख सकते हैं. वन इज startupnation.com. You will get good amount of details in that from that. Legal aspects के लिए you can look into legalzoom.com. This will help you in terms of getting the legal inputs and regulatory inputs. And the third one is ethicalcorp.com. Right? ये आपको मैंने कुछ ऐसे एग्जांपल्स दिए हैं, कुछ ऐसे पॉइंटर्स दिए हैं which will help you in terms of living up to how to plan the startup for startups, the legal and the ethical constructs. So I think that is what I had from my end on these topics. In case if there are any questions, I'm free or open to answer. Please.